What's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. This is Brandon.
Stefan.
Welcome, everybody, back to Comics Kings. Welcome to Christ on Infinite Rants. This is the show where we take a comic book topic, we analyze it, go into depth into this conversation. Today, we have a great topic for you guys. We're going to be talking about why DC Comics needs Geoff Johns today now more than ever. Why was moving Geoff Johns into the film movie production a bad move in hindsight? It made sense at the time, but how did that affect the DC universe, where they are now, what could have been, and why they are so lackluster today? And both their film and their comics, I hate to say it, but their comics are not where it is, especially with their event writing. We have news that Joshua Williamson is writing the death of the Justice League. Everything is accumulating. Everything is adding up with his Deathstroke, his Batman, his Robin. Everything is built, and Justice League Incarnate, Infinite Frontiers, building up to this big event. But there's something missing. In this video today, we are going to analyze exactly what that is. As always, today is Wednesday with the PCPR Bad Badge Whiplash Wednesday, everybody. So check out tomorrow's Cinema Manny's Many Different Perspectives, dropping a new comic book review for us today. I'm excited to see what he has in store for us. Oh, yeah. We have Travis, who is going to be having a guest from the comic community on, interviewing them, putting them on the spotlight. That's at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find this one at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. That's when it drops. But if you get into it later, well, I'm glad we can provide that entertainment and that conversation for you guys later in your day. And then we have to close out the show tonight with a banger. We got Big Herm Collectibles over on his channel. Let's talk about a remastered, joined by the man Stefan Missing Link right over here. And Fable One Collection Down Station, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on Whiplash Wednesday. And Nick Comic Culture drops 2 videos. I couldn't forget Nick. Could not forget Nick. He drops 2 videos. There's never enough for Nick. Drops his hauls and his videos with the cadets. So check that out. Should be 10 Eastern Time starting off the day, and 5 o'clock Eastern Time right before Herm goes live over there. Station, everybody. Thank you so much for spending the day with us. Stefan, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I think this will be a good topic. Good topic. A lot of content.
I know. We've been talking about this all week, and I feel like the more we go into depth, the more we need to actually talk about this in front of a camera, because there's so much to unpack, you know? Yeah. Geoff Johns arguably was the driving force of DC Comics. I mean, you had Grant Morrison, right, for sure. But as an event writer, as someone who brought that life into DC Comics, it is 100%, without a doubt, Geoff Johns.
Oh, yeah. I like to look at it like, in the early 2000s, of course, you had Grant Morrison contributing a lot of great things. Geoff Johns was, to me, the staple, though. Like Brian Michael Bendis was the staple at Marvel. You might have had someone like Mark Miller doing Civil War or something here or there, Old Man Logan, like in an event really cool, worth getting hyped up. But in terms of people leading the franchise, you had Bendis leading Marvel, you had Johns leading DC. Like that, right. Those were the 2 staples.
Right. Now, keep in mind, none of these creators, Bendis and Geoff Johns, they did not get to that level where they can whip out a great Justice League book. We're fighting Darkseid, and it's arguably the best book of that decade, of the 2010-2020 decade. You know, maybe not the best, but it was one of DC's better events. Darkseid War was one of their better events that they had going on. You know, there's a lot of great stuff in there. There's great action. You know, Blackest Night, you know, Geoff Johns didn't just get there overnight. You know, each story kind of built onto his experience. Same thing with Brian Michael Bendis. Yeah. And to me right now, that's something that DC doesn't have. You know?
I could see that. You also had, I don't know how familiar Bendis was with all the Marvel characters, but he clearly had a passion for writing them. But you get to tell that Johns knows the DC universe inside out, like the minute stuff, the throwaway characters, their backstories. Right. You can tell he knows this stuff, and it's exemplified in any character he handles in the DC universe.
Right, and that's really interesting because before Crisis on Infinite Earths happened, there was not a whole lot of people, probably a handful of creators that really knew all of their cast. You know, it took Wolfman and Perez to reintroduce that to the world. Yeah, every creator. So DC Comics, arguably after like 1988, 1989, when it were wrapped up and everything, that's when DC started exploring some of their other characters. Geoff Johns later to Do great work with Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps, which is honestly
Yeah.
my favorite. His JSA is great. His Hawkman, only guy I know who can actually make Hawkman a lovable character that can go on for over 20 issues.
I mean, maybe I was gonna throw his, even though it's a great read, I was gonna throw his Aquaman out there, but I was gonna say at that point
Yes.
maybe it was his star power pushing the book, but it was still he made it was an very involved story. It made it pushed Aquaman to the forefront and made him relevant, and he had him.
Right.
Aquaman's a weird character. I don't want to say he's not been relevant because Peter
It's
David
been a
did some
joke.
amazing
It's
things.
kind of like that.
It's hard to market him a little bit sometimes. So
I would say, like, out of all the Justice League characters, he's obviously kind of the running joke of the Justice League, like the runt of the group. I guess Geoff Johns kind of said, well, you know what? Every runt has their time to shine. Every runt can, like, you just give them that coach, you can give them that credibility, that push, right?
Yeah.
If we make a character feel important, so will the readers. They'll know that it's important,
Exactly.
But if we're here sitting over thinking of him as like a joke, Black Man as a joke, or Mara, all as like kind of jokes, Aqualad, arguably you can say Tempest or Aqualad had a better role in Teen Titans than Aquaman had in his whole career. Yeah. But Geoff Johns is the one who really pushed that book forward. And that's why to his credit, that's why the movie was that as well made.
Yeah. Yeah, he was definitely very involved as a consultant. Speaking of the movies, I guess we can agree that's where the downfall started, or him not working for DC as much, DC kind of going in a different direction.
Right, post Darkseid War, he was supposed to drive Rebirth with Doomsday Clock, which brought together, what is a Doomsday Clock? We're not going to do the bit today, but not doing the bit today, but Doomsday Clock was supposed to like merge the Watchmen universe into the DC universe and make that canon, kind of bring together what people love about Crisis on Infinite Earths and what people love about Watchmen, kind of marry those two together.
Yeah.
But because he got pulled away, that didn't matter. Obviously, Batman sitting in the Mobius chair was a big part of their continuity at the time, seeing 3 Jokers. But that story got delayed all the way until the pandemic.
4 years, yeah.
Good 4 years. And during that time, Geoff Johns was consulting with shows like Titans, Swamp Thing, Doom Patrol, while highlighting other movies. Stargirl 2 is in development. You had Shazam going, you had Justice League going, you had Aquaman.
And these are all movies that he had to like kind of spearhead as, like he was like the Kevin Feige of Warner Brothers during this period.
Right, and that's kind of crazy to think about, because if you look at what Scott Snyder was doing at the time, taking over comic books, he kind of had like a template, but I feel like he went to Geoff Johns, definitely said, hey man, what we got? Like, where's that big binder of yours? And that's what we got out of the Perpetua and leading it into Death Metal. But that's the way I feel, because it felt like a Geoff Johns scale. But
yeah, absolutely.
It definitely did feel Geoff Johns inspired. I'm not going to say it was a direct, because we'll never know. But definitely pulling Geoff Johns out of your comic books to put in your movies. At the time, does it make sense? Yeah, because Geoff Johns, there without a doubt knows the DC universe better than anyone on the planet next to Marv Wolfman.
Yeah. Or Mark Waid.
Yeah, I would say Mark Waid. But Geoff Johns is a better comic book writer, a better event creator than he is in the film industry. And I don't think that kind of... In comics, you don't have a glass ceiling, right? I could write a comic book. I could put everyone I want in there.
Anything can, yeah.
Right? I could put a comic book. I could put all my friends in there, I could put Jim Lee in there for all I care.
The biggest concepts,
right.
Yeah, right.
I'm God. I'm writing a comic book. I'm God. I'm doing a movie.
It.
I got to worry about budgets. I have to worry about, who I can cast, how certain people get along. Because there's a much different body of work at play.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think when they saw that, okay, Kevin Feige not only understands the Marvel universe better than everyone, he knows how to build those stories and integrate little pieces for fans. Because Kevin Feige has been in the industry for years.
Yeah. He was actually, I don't know, he wasn't like executive, but he produced the first X-Men movie way back in 2000, which means it was made in the late 90s. So he been involved since like, 90s at least in the movie business, as opposed
Right.
to Geoff Johns, who's kind of just thrown in the water, like,
Right.
good luck, man.
Right. Like Kevin Feige has seen film develop. You know, like you had Men in Black, which was a big game changer. You had Avatar, which was a big game changer at the time. Avatar was probably the biggest blockbuster, like cinematically told movie, right? You know, you had your own language and that was really unique. The way that movie was shot was really unique. That's still one of my favorite movies today. I don't care what anyone says in the comment section. But
It's a good movie. Yeah.
Kevin
Adult Ferngully.
Feige, I'm sorry?
I said Adult Ferngully. I love it though. It's a great movie.
I have not seen that movie, but I heard good things about it. Man, I'm trying to name movies I've seen, man. but you know, Kevin Feige just had that sense of, you know, what can we do different? What can we do that a comic book can't? You know, we can have those visual effects. You know, we can have that narration, right? That is more eye appealing.
He understands that fine medium between the cinematic and the comic book reading experience and how to amalgamate the two. I love using that word, but he blends them together very seamlessly. And Johns, like you made a good point earlier. Like when Johns is writing a comic book, when you're writing a comic book, I never thought it like this, but you are God. Like you're creating that universe. You dictate how those characters' lives are going to turn out for the most part, and you can write them any way you want. You want them to be sad. You want them, but in the movie business, you have to accommodate actors who they might be big names, so they can have a pull on what their characters might say in the script. They might just,
they might not get along with everyone.
Exactly. There's many different X factors going into the movie business.
Right.
And not to say Geoff Johns doesn't understand the movie business, because he was
I think he understands it, but once he got his hands dirty, he was like, this is a bigger world than I ever expected.
No, yeah, because he is familiar, because he was Richard Donner's assistant, director of fantastic movie director. He directed Superman 1, the Lethal Weapon movies.
Oh, those are good movies.
Yeah, he's had his hand in so many different things. Richard Donner's a legend. He passed away, I believe it was either 2020 or 2021. Rest in peace. But yes, he was Richard Donner's assistant for a number of years. So I'm sure he picked up on a number of skills or, information while working with Richard. But he still was in the realm. He wrote with David S. Goyer on Justice Society. So, and that's someone who's very involved with the movie business. But it's
not the same.
It's vicarious. Yeah, he was vicariously living through partners or people he worked with or for, as opposed to Kevin Feige, who was in the mix. Like you said, that's his job,
And this wasn't necessarily like the biggest thing, right? Is if I have an artist, right? If I don't get along with my artist, i.e., let's use Al Ewing and Joe Bennett, for example, did not get along at all. Guess what Al Ewing gets to do? Guess what Joe Bennett next to? Try again on another title.
Right.
Try again next issue. Get another artist, right? Not that they did in Immortal Hulk, but like, if I don't like, let's say, for example, my name is Ed Brubaker and I don't like Steve Epting. I can replace him with Mike Perkins the next issue.
Right.
Find a new artist. In a movie, that's different because you don't get another movie a lot of times, especially when you have to recast.
Yeah.
Right? Even when you look at the Harry Potter movies, unfortunately, the actor of Albus Dumbledore passed away after the second film, so they had to switch. But that was still a very, not really jarring. It was a different experience for the viewers, right?
That, you know what? That's a weird one in a good way, because I remember as a kid being so thrown off by that, because I really liked the nurturing calm of the first Dumbledore.
Yeah, I forget his name.
Liked the very direct of the newer Dumbledore. Like it made sense.
It was a straighter approach for a more mature Harry.
Yes.
Right. But, I rest my case, like if there's not going to be another Justice League movie, because there's no way Ray Fisher's coming back, and there's no way Joss Whedon's coming back. There's no way Zack Snyder's coming back. Like, that's unfortunately the time for that cast has failed, and that a lot of it, in my opinion, can be because there was not a whole lot of experience in that movie to make it the blockbuster that they intended it to. There were unfortunate events that led up to it, but at the end of the day, right, Joss Whedon is still mostly responsible for the Avengers, which was awesome.
I mean, that's what falls. Like, I want to place the blame on Joss or Johns, to be honest. Like, they should have just stuck with Snyder's vision and wrote it out. They brought Joss Whedon in to direct a movie that this is probably should have been one of their biggest movies to date, and he had less than a year to reshoot this movie. The movie came out November of 2017. He was brought in February or March of 2017 and had to reshoot a movie that had been shot over a number of years in a matter of months. And Johns at the same time, I think he was brought in. Yeah, he was brought in a year before this in 2016, because even though it was hit or miss, Batman vs Superman critically and financially was okay, but Warner Brothers was expecting more. So they cleared a lot of house and brought Johns in to kind of like make this more comic booky,
friendly.
Because that was friendly, because that was the complaint that Snyder had made it too dark. They wanted Johns to add some liveliness to it. And once again, like he was spearheading a number of projects that were in development before he was even attached to it, like Justice League. So when Justice League failed, someone had to take the blame,
and that was Geoff Johns.
John's shoulders. Yes, yeah,
right. And that's really interesting, because Batman and Superman, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a dark movie. I would say it's a very uncharacteristic movie.
Yeah,
in the sense that they were good. They were shooting for the stars with all these action, all these bold scenes, but there were no meaningful character moments. Like, I think if Geoff Johns were doing that movie, you wouldn't have "Why did you say her name?" That line is just cut out immediately.
I think they messed up with the title.
Dawn of Justice. Like, that's a stupid name.
Or even Batman vs Superman, because when a title like that and you're implying the movie revolves around these two characters butting heads, and that's not really what Batman vs Superman was about. They had ideology differences, but at the end of the movie, it's one of those cliche examples. Hey, we're on the same team. We're misunderstood. Let's team up. And
oh wait, you're dead.
Oh yeah, well, before he died, but yeah, he died. But
I'm so sorry.
Something like Carnage 2 that's kind of why I can understand why people like the first one better, but I appreciated the second Carnage more because it didn't try to be too much. You're not going to get much out of a plot of Venom versus Carnage. Like, it was what it was, as opposed to the first Venom movie was trying to do too much. Same thing with Batman vs Superman. Maybe it wasn't trying to do too much, but it shouldn't have been titled Batman vs Superman, because you're implying that the movie revolves around that, and that wasn't the focus.
Right. And then on the flip side, there is no mistake that Aquaman and Shazam are arguably your two top. Like, I could say, I've heard people say Shazam is their favorite DC movie out today. That is all based on the New 52. Like, they're the same shots, they're the same moments.
The plot,
the same plot, just without Black Adam.
Yeah.
Take Black Adam out, it's the same comic book. Same family. Same character. It's like copy and paste. I've never seen a copy and paste comic more. A movie to comic.
I'm not too familiar with Shazam, Captain Marvel, whatever you want to call him. But John's version in the New 52 was the most streamlined version of Captain Marvel Shazam I had read in recent number of years. I don't know.
I was the only one.
See, that's what I'm saying.
No one gave a crap about Shazam until Geoff Johns. He was a forgotten character.
I mean, unfortunately, he's a forgotten character, but I personally think he's cooler than Superman, but that's just me. I like his costume a little bit more. I like the magic base. I like the whole thing. He's a kid there's a lot of cool concepts you can come up with. Shazam.
Right. No, I agree. You have a lot more diversity with that. And Geoff Johns understood that.
Exactly.
In the comic books and his movies. There's no mistake, when we're talking about DC Comics today, with Infinite Frontier, in my opinion, it was a big disappointment. Everyone who's like, oh, it's including these characters. Here's the thing about the DC universe. Half their character list does not matter unless there's a big crisis event. You're not going to see them. You're not going to see them at all.
Yeah.
Right? Thinking about Joshua Williamson is a great writer. I love Joshua Williamson. If he ends up watching this video, I have nothing but the utmost love and respect for the guy. He's written some of my favorite stories. I have never, ever in any of my comic book experiences had a writer that has made me like a character I can't stand. And that is his run on Barry Allen. His run on The Flash is I hold it with the utmost respect.
Yeah, his Flash to me is almost in terms, maybe I haven't read enough Flash, but I feel like he was doing what Geoff Johns did with his Green Lantern, like building the legacy of Flash and integrating certain parts from different eras into one cohesive story.
Oh yeah, his Flash is unmatched to any book of DCE at the time. Like, you're telling someone who's a big Wally West fan and not like Barry Allen. I can't stand Barry Allen. Thank you.
That's how I feel about Hal Jordan.
No, that's a different argument for another day. But but you to make that one of someone's favorite book who's not meant to like this character. We're all meant to like it just like other characters. But when you can tell a great story and you can gain people to appreciate a character they're not used to, you've done your job right. Josh Williamson did his job right. Not a lot of people like Damian Wayne. Why? Because not a lot of people have the tolerability for Damian Wayne until they've read Joshua Williamson's current Robin book. And that's the truth. I've never seen more Damian Wayne fans pop up.
Damian is, that's why I kind of like Guy. We're not going to get into a bit, but I feel like Guy Gardner has the same thing as Damian. Like they can easily be written as obnoxious assholes, but there's more to these, there's layers to these characters that makes them very endearing. And, Williamson was great when it comes to showcasing that with Damian.
Right. 100%. So like when you get these are like the two books I've read. Obviously there were books in between, like his Justice League stint during Death Metal, his Batman and Superman.
Was that Zermanico on art?
Zermanico, yeah.
Zermanico, yeah.
And then there was that Batman Superman with David Marquez, which is fine. It was fun, cool, great. You wrote a new character better than anyone else wrote a new character, so I appreciate that. At least it was on par. But now my expectations are raised up to the highest bar because this is what you've given me, right? You've given me this much work. Now I'm reading something that is not there. It may still be a good story, but I'm not going to see it the same way because it's lowered. It's like down here now, right? And this is a book that DC you're rebranding everything. You just cleaned house. You got rid of DiDio. You got rid of a bunch of editors. You have a whole new staff in. Right,
even writers,
even new writers, right. And this book is going to define your universe. This is the book that's going to lead us into the multiverse, going to define the plot coming ahead, right? We're talking about Infinite Frontier, and it feels rushed. Now I understand there are characters that not a whole lot of people are privy to in the DC universe, right? Myself, I wasn't as knowledgeable as some of these characters,
right?
But the plot felt so rushed. In my opinion, it felt really rushed. We didn't spend enough time thawing out the plot. Oh, Darkseid's here. The Quintessence are dead, and now Darkseid is now. There's a bunch of deception in this Infinite Frontier from characters that we weren't made to care about anyway. So why should I be attached to their deception? And why does this matter? Oh, and Justice League Incarnate now. Darkseid, we're gonna rescue Barry Allen because he went to the Speed Force off panel. But now we have a team of Justice League characters from other Earths that we still don't care about fighting Darkseid. So why should I feel attached to these characters that are not our usual squad going against the most powerful character in the DC universe? But you're spending your time writing quips like, oh, they're in a comic book realm. Or now we're in the dark dimension is taking over. We have the Batwoman who laughs.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Yeah.
I don't care.
That reminded me of Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive. I don't care. I'll show you the reference later. But that was great. He was like, I'm innocent. I didn't kill my wife. Harrison Ford was on the run because they thought he was framed for killing his wife. Tommy Lee Jones was like this marshal trying to track him down.
I know the actor.
And he was like, I don't care. I just want to bring you in. That was good.
I don't care. Like that to me doesn't matter. Because the story is rushed. I'm like, when I'm looking at an event book, it's like, if a character dies, I want to feel like it matters.
I mean, but maybe that's not on Williamson's fault, shoulders. Maybe that's, like you said, DC clean house. They don't have many people in their stable like they did. Like,
right.
Williamson is the closest thing to their,
right.
And not saying he's not a capable writer, but he's relatively new. Like to be handed.
He's coming off the highest moment of his career.
Exactly. It's like, even someone like Snyder, I think he was on doing Detective Comics for maybe like a year before he
got Batman in New 52. Yeah, because he was doing Black Mirror, and that was his coming out party.
Yeah. And, even Johns, like they started off on not necessarily, they just didn't hand Geoff Johns, hey, you did great on Hawkman, write Infinite Crisis. He kind of had to showcase that he can handle, that he was ready for this leading up to it. While with Williamson, it seems like they just kind of shoved it on his plate. Like, hey, man, You're up to
Right.
bat.
That was gonna lead me to my next point. I'm like, I'm not faulting Williamson for this at all. Right. I'm saying that he hasn't been polished to write these events yet. He hasn't gotten to know the feel of the DC universe yet.
Right.
He hasn't gotten to work with any of these other characters in smaller titles, but he has to write them on the big stage. You know, it's like doing a play without the dress rehearsal. You know, it's just not going to work.
Right. And it's funny because it seems like with what DC's trying to do now with their whole metaverse, that's something that probably Geoff Johns would excel in.
Yes,
right? Like
that's the whole point of this conversation.
Right. But they don't have him anymore. Like, it's just weird how that works out. Like back then when he was trying to work up to something like this, you know, even to something like Blackest Night or something, a Flashpoint, like it still wasn't on the scale of the metaverse. And it's like it's something maybe he was trying to do. And it seems like now would be the perfect time. Geoff Johns, you could, especially since everything matters, his Earth One series with Batman, you could have him doing stuff like that. You know, it'd be more freedom.
Your boy Superboy Prime would be like the OG.
Yes, I love Superboy Prime, but I'm sorry,
Station. But it's like you're asking a 3-year pro to carry the team like a 10-year vet. Now I know this might go over your head, but Andre Iguodala for the Golden State Warriors, arguably their biggest X factor during the playoff run that they had. Right? They didn't win with Draymond Green. They didn't win with Stephen Curry. It was mostly Iguodala who was there with that leadership. He had that playoff experience, that championship experience. You know, you're not going to depend on a bunch of people 25 and under who's just now in the NBA. Right? You're going to depend on somebody who's been in that situation before, who's a little bit more composed, right?
Understands.
Who knows how to pace the game out, not feel that pressure.
Right.
That's Geoff Johns, you know? And I feel like that's why, you know, and I can even say this about Tynan's Batman. I can see why that pressure kind of got to him to just have him exit the door. You know, because you were there, but now you're really there, you know, and Tynan like is a great writer, but not everyone's built to have that pressure. And I don't think Williamson yet. I think he will be. I think he can be the next. I think he one day can write to the same stakes as Geoff Johns did when he was leaving.
Yeah.
But I don't think that time's right now.
No, yeah. No, I agree. It's at least too, you know, not saying he's capable, but like we've been saying, that's something he's kind of got to get comfortable within the realms that he's working in, you know, like lead up to this stuff. Like with Johns, it works so well is because it's not something they shoved on his plate. It's like stories that he was implementing. Maybe the editorial was telling him to write certain things, but he was integrating it into his overall plot that he was structuring for himself, you know, narratively through his arcs just of titles he took on. Williamson, like I said, it seems like they're just kind of, it's not something that it was in his plans. They're just kind of like, hey man, we need you to write this, you know, and it's
It's not like I want you to. It's like it's not like William said, I want to write this, guys. Like no, we need you. You know, and this is something that I've learned. Actually, JM DeMatteis talked about this a little bit during the interview. Station to JM. When you're writing a character in a smaller book, you're getting to know them as like your friend, right? You know them, right? You're getting to know everything about them. Who would they be friends with? What kind of ice cream they would have is a very important question. If anyone out there wants to be a writer, these are the things you want to focus on with your characters.
Yeah.
Right? Now, when Geoff Johns is writing characters like Hawkman, right? When you watch him in JSA, he's friends with Hawkman. He knows how Hawkman would act.
In a group, yes, yeah. Yep.
You know, when I'm writing you know, what's another character? When I'm writing Wally West, how would Wally West really act once we bring Barry back? What is the friendship between Hal and Barry when they're seeing each other for the first time in Blackest Night?
Yeah, Oliver and Hal's friendship in Green Lantern. You know, like
even writing Sinestro. Why is Sinestro such a deceitful character? What is his biggest grudge against Hal Jordan? You know, even writing Hal Jordan's significant other who later becomes part of the Purple Lantern Corps. Why is she so important? Why was I forget her name, but she turned to a Red Lantern.
One of the greatest things he's ever done. Why do Green Lanterns have a weakness against yellow? Sounds like it was a joke back in the day, but he turned it into an actual palpable, you know, like, so that's
and
that's genius.
I feel like Williamson, if he got a few more titles to work with in the DC universe, because he hasn't had a big body of work. He's had like one Probably less than 5 titles so far.
Yeah.
Before Infinite Frontier, I'm not counting Robin, Batman, any of that bullcrap. I'm talking about like actual titles, like before this.
Right.
Right.
Like I was gonna say Flash,
Batman, Superman.
and that was almost like even though it was like 15 issues.
I mean, I still count it, but still, it's like there's not much he did prior to Rebirth. I think he did like some Green Lantern in New 52.
No, to be honest, I know Batman Superman was during the Infinite Crisis or the Infinite Frontier era, like 20 like
Batman Superman was that was Jen Luen Yang you're thinking of. This was back when Batman Who Laughs, You're the Villain was arising. Him and David Marquez were doing that. The Infected story.
Oh, that was Williamson. Yeah. Oh, snap. It was.
That was Williamson.
Yeah. Dang. Did it have a hiatus? Because I know it.
Yeah, it had a hiatus, and it came back after they were done with Batman Who Laughs, and it went for like 6 more issues.
That's why I got confused. Yeah.
Then they renumbered
it. Started off with Batman. Yeah.
But
dang. But no, before Rebirth, that's what I'm saying. I cannot think of anything other than Flash or
right.
That.
And it's not like he was building his name up. Like Geoff Johns was building his name up.
Yeah.
Geoff Johns. Everyone knows Geoff Johns don't like Wally West, but that was like his kind of entry level. He kind of owes that to Wally.
It's weird because I love Geoff Johns as a writer. Like he's one of my favorite writers, and his character choices. Like he loves hell. I can't stand hell, but I love his Green Lantern story. Wally's my favorite Flash.
Yes, sir.
Barry, I'm sure Barry was before my time. Like I wasn't, I know he died in Crisis Infinite Earths, and I didn't read that till later. I grew up with Wally, I'm sure. Yeah, I thought it was cool that Barry was a detective in a sense, like forensic scientist.
Right.
So him and Bruce had stuff. This is something that John showcased, but it showed that in the Justice League, that was one of the people besides Superman that Bruce would feel a closeness to us because they had similar working minds. Like, as a forensic scientist, Bruce being a detective analyst, always trying to figure things out. Like, so there was a relatableness to them that I respected John showcasing, but I still love Wally more. He just kind of embodies what I think it means to be the Flash. Because, Barry's hopeful, but Wally's super hopeful, bro. His whole family was taken from him, and he's still.
And that's why Wally knows that I can't just run back in time and do whatever the hell I want. Is because I know I've lived without my family. I can keep living without them.
Right.
And going back in time, I'm not replacing what I've lost. I'm just damaging myself more. Barry did not master that concept, i.e. Flashpoint. Fucked up the whole damn universe. Which is why I don't like Barry Allen, which thank you, Dan DiDio, for putting that agenda to make that relaunch. Would have been a cool Flash story as a standalone, but as kind of like we're gonna use this character, we're gonna destroy this character, write some bullcrap that's the Speed Force that we don't even know what it is yet, but it's just gonna erase time. Like at least define the parameters of this power before you relaunch the freaking universe because of it. It's like now the Speed Force is like the running joke. I'm the Speed Force. You're the Speed Force. Like, what's a Doomsday Clock? We don't know.
Everyone's got the Speed Force.
Oh, you got it. So to me, I felt like Geoff Johns is really the only person that took the time to define that, and I don't think that Williamson has really looked at some of these concepts, and I don't think he's had time to. I don't think it's not the fact he hasn't looked. I don't think he's had time to sit with himself and think about these concepts, Yeah,
you're right. Absolutely right.
I'm going to be writing a whole bunch of characters we haven't seen in years. We're probably not going to see her for years to come, right? Like Roger Rabbit, Captain Carrot, whatever his name is. I call him Rabbit.
I've never, bro. I'll give you that. I know he's got a strong following. People love Captain Carrot, but they've tried to push him in like Final Crisis, and even though it was not a good miniseries, Countdown to Final Crisis, which was just called Countdown. But Captain Carrot, I don't get it. But I see that they keep trying to push him.
Right, like that Flash from Earth 13. I forget her name. She's a forgettable character. She don't matter. She gets her butt kicked by Darkseid. As one would assume, she gets kicked by Dark. She's a random. Right. You have a list of randoms that are eventually going to get their butts kicked by Darkseid. You know this. So how can you make these randoms feel like we should care about them? Why should they be on the starting squad? Why? Tell me. And I don't think Geoff Johns has been able to do that. Or not Geoff Johns, Joshua Williamson. I'm sorry.
What's that? Well, no, sorry, but I mean, they just gotta give him. See, that's the thing. Maybe I don't know if it's too late. Like maybe there's too much editorial agenda pushing nowadays than there was. As much as people hate about Dan DiDio, he did, there was some great things he did. He let Johns clearly, he let Johns excel and flourish.
DiDio had a great structure. He's like, he would have one guy and he'd be like, okay, what do you want to do? How can we convey this message to our creative teams?
Exactly. And it's the opposite now. And now it's editorial trying to tell writers, hey, this is what you're going to push. This is what we want the overall message to be. Not unless your
name's Tom Taylor. You can do whatever the F you want if your name's Tom Taylor.
Well, he's deserved it. I mean, to me, he's deserved it. Injustice is a spinoff of a video game title. That shouldn't have been anywhere near as good as it was.
And how many issues is it? Like over...
It went on for years. Like it should have just been a miniseries. That's what I'm saying. Tom Taylor I think he works... I know people don't say the opposite, but to me, I feel like his more standout work, opposite work, is when he's doing alternate universes. Like not when he's confined within.
Steel, Injustice,
Deceased.
Because guess what? He don't got to worry about the toxic environment that is editorial. Oh, exactly. if I want to write a triggering Batman story, if I want to write Superman as a villain, I'm never going to do that in the main title. They're never going to I'm going to trigger everyone, no matter if that triggering will boost the sales. That's not going to happen. That's why characters don't say dead.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. It's like maybe that's what both companies, Marvel, why do I say both? Well, the big two, the superhero pushers. Maybe they're both lacking that overall cohesive vision that Bendis and Johns brought to the table during their tenures. Because Marvel doesn't really have a main writer either, to be honest. I think
divided it.
Yeah. I was going to say they have a few people who kind of spearhead certain areas and take on certain titles like Ewing,
Hickman, Dugan, Zdarsky, Cates.
Zdarsky's really stepped up, man. Him and young Scotty. I love when a writer or an artist can show, I've actually got some very good writing chops. And they just
Strange Academy.
Yeah.
Strange Academy is a fantastic book. If y'all not reading Strange Academy, do yourself a freaking favor right now. Go back to your LCS. It's Wednesday. Go buy the book.
Read Marvel Zdarsky's Marvel 2-in-1 as well. That will have you questioning why they put Slott on Fantastic Four instead of Zdarsky.
I remember I was like, we gotta put Zdarsky on.
Yeah, it seemed only natural. Yeah,
right. And then they're like, and then Slott was like about to go to DC, right? And then they're like, what book do you want? He's like,
oh, is that what happened?
That one, basically, in a nutshell,
Oh wow.
Because they just lost Bendis, and they were gonna lose Slott unless they reconstructed his contract. And he left Spider-Man with so much negativity to him. He's like, I built this guy for 10 years now, and y'all kicking me out.
Yeah.
He was like kind of like middle fingers, deuces to you guys. And then they're like, Dan, what do you want? He's like, Mr. Reed Richards.
I guess they got it. I'm not the biggest Slott fan, but I do feel like he's put in enough time and written some things that he deserves that, I guess. But
he's a Marvel boy. He's a Marvel
boy. They missed the mark. Like Fantastic Four, I think under Zdarsky's penmanship, maybe keep Silva, maybe bring in another. I just think under Zdarsky's penmanship, Fantastic Four will be like one of the top title every month.
I would love to agree with you all day and night, but without that, you don't get Zdarsky's Daredevil, and I would take that any day over his Fantastic Four.
Did those come out? Yeah, that is true. Because Marvel 2-in-1 ended, and then a few months later, he was doing DD or Daredevil. Yeah, dang, that's true. Oh, look how the universe works.
It's kind of like I've seen him. I know what he can do with Fantastic Four,
Sure.
But now I want to see him do something else. Like his Invaders was great. Now I'm like,
I've got to read that. That's like the only Marvel Zdarsky stuff I've not read.
Oh, it's so good, But now it's like, I don't want you to write Captain America because now I know what you're capable of, and there's nothing that I'm going to be thrown away by, So that's kind of where I'm at. But let's kind of bring things back on topic with where we are. Geoff Johns is, even if we kept Geoff Johns in the comic world, we still. What would the continuity look like with a completed Rebirth, with a completed Doomsday Clock, whatever the hell that is, with a completed
I don't think we'll ever know. Because it kind of got messy because it's like they were over the number of years while he was trying to implement the changes of cement the changes of Rebirth and then finalize it in Doomsday Clock, they were toying around. You know, that was supposed to be the book that
Headline
defined
everything.
Yeah. And
that was their Infinite Frontier.
Exactly. And at the same time they were doing that book and trying to accommodate that book, they were accommodating Snyder's vision with the Dark Knight's Metal.
Well, he only because they're like, yo, you have a dope book, right? Do you have more? And he's like, I mean, I could do more. And like, yeah, this isn't working with Geoff Johns because it's taking forever. Can you start Justice League? Because keep in mind, right, when Snyder started Justice League with no Justice, there was no Rebirth branding on it.
No, yeah.
You know, like you had a Justice League of America book that Francis, what was it? No, it wasn't Man. It was like Hitch, Manipul. It was like, yeah, Manipul.
Oh no, you had JLA, and it was just it was written and drawn by Brian Hitch himself, but it didn't feel like
Yeah, and then you had Justice League of America, which was by Steve Orlando.
Oh yeah, Batman and Black Canary
and Vixen and Lobo. It was like the Bounty Hunter Squad, but I mean, it was fine. But like, there was a time in DC where Batman and Flash still had the Rebirth label, Wonder Woman had the Rebirth label, but Justice League didn't. So like, we were starting to ease out of Rebirth, kind of like cruise control into that exactly.
This was the Justice. You had Black Canary, Atom, Lobo, Vixen, Ray. Yeah, Killer Frost. It was a
fun read. You know, I miss those books. I really do.
No, it was fun. I actually, it reminded me of DeMatteis Justice League. You know,
true shit, man. That's a great point. I didn't think of that until now that you say that. I'm like, wow.
Kind of gave me
a bunch of randoms in one book that actually means something.
Yes. Yep.
You know,
hey, we might be onto something.
But, you know, I'm like thinking about like, what if we didn't have all of this? Snyder would still be at DC. Tomasi would probably still be at DC.
I definitely think Tomasi would. I think because it's funny that we were talking about this back chat. That was my bad to cut you off, but ties into Tomasi.
Go for it.
His Slingshot book, was it called?
Guns and Slugs and
Gunslinger or something. Sling gun or
something like that. Like Snipe and Slug.
Snipe and Slug. That if you notice that. It's gonna be Image and with Brad Walker, and the only place I've seen that really pushed was in Geoff Johns' Geiger issues. Mm-hmm. And when you can tell they have a close friendship because when Geoff Johns was doing Green Lantern, Tomasi was killing stuff in Green Lantern Corps. That's some of the best complimentary writing I've ever seen. Like
true shit.
I really feel Geoff Johns' Green Lantern run was amazing on its own, but Tomasi definitely helped breathe life and to the mythos that Johns was building.
You know, he kind of gave that fresh air to the rest of the world in Brightest Day. You know, they're Geoff Johns wrote a great Blackest Night. You know, there is no denying it. But like Tomasi really showed the universe. Now we're kind of in the good days. We're entering our renaissance.
Yep.
You know, and that was really cool. You know, and there's a reason why Tomasi is there, and it's under Geoff Johns' brand. What was it, like Mad Ghost or something? Ghost House, whatever it's called.
Mad Ghost,
I don't know. But like John stepping away. What Doomsday Clock could have been? How that would have affected the DC universe? We're never gonna know. But it would have led. What we do know is there's a reason why DC can't hold on to their creators.
I think we would have more of a cohesive. Maybe it would have led to more of a metaverse. That's what Johns was going for with End of Doomsday Clock. But I think there would have been more structure into how things are being played out now.
Right. And it's really interesting because now we're at a time where Jackson Hyde has a book where Arthur Curry doesn't. You know, we're not using Roy Harper at all. He's a Black Lantern, but we haven't touched him in a hot year. You know,
why is that like a running theme? They just like to say, like, you know, he's almost like a Matt Murdock. Like, let's see how much we can mess him up this time. You know?
Yeah, I'm like, why? He's like Hawkeye. Yeah. He's like Hawkeye of the Justice League. I'm like, literally not because he shoots arrows, but because he's a poster boy in Torment. I'm like, why?
Yeah, Hawkeye. You say Hawkeye's tormented?
Yeah, man. He's the most depressed member of the squad next to Wanda, but we know why Wanda's depressed.
I mean, I guess I could say that, but you know, I feel like with the Daredevil, the mission statement is like, let's see what ringer we could put him through this time. I feel like that's Roy Harper. Like,
Oh yeah,
at one point, he lost his daughter, he lost an arm. He's dead because he got
he's a
killed by
Black fucking Lantern. He's
Yeah.
Darkseid's little pawn.
Yeah, his pawn. Yeah.
And now it's like, where's Mark Waid to make happy Roy Harper, like he did with Happy Daredevil?
Hey, I would read that. Yo, let's get Marcos Martin, Pablo Riviera,
Chris
and an
Samney.
Arsenal book. Chris Samney on an Arsenal book.
Let's
Bro,
do it.
I would read the heck out of that.
I would read the shit out of that. I'm not even gonna lie, man. Oh my god.
Make it happen, DC.
Make it happen. Yo.
But I think
timestamp this. This is gonna happen.
I think DC having Geoff Johns would definitely, because it seems like they're a little not all over the place, but it's easy for them to use a cop-out answer and excuse like, hey, it's the metaverse. It doesn't have to make sense because we're picking up different parts.
59.
Yeah. Geoff Johns would definitely add more weight to the stuff they're doing.
Because like, okay, this Earth is gonna matter in the long run. But what to me is really interesting is you're at a time now where your sidekicks mean more than ever because the DCEU didn't like them. Now that the DCEU's gone, you can breathe fresh air. Geoff Johns got his career started with side characters. He's the person to bring life back into that. Imagine a Teen Titans book imagine another Teen Titans, maybe not written by Geoff Johns, but kind of under his direction.
Yo, I did not realize that. Just because Stars and Stripes was essentially a sidekick legacy book. Then Justice Society was about legacy, you know, like maybe not sidekick characters, but it involved a lot of sidekicks. Yeah, exactly.
Nick Garrick is a side character now. Alan Scott is a side character. Iron Man.
And then he went to
sidekicks.
Then he went to Teen Titans. I did not realize that he started so heavily with like sidekicks until you just pointed that out. That's wild. And he elevated these characters too.
Yeah, he didn't just do it and say, you know what?
Hey, you're sidekicks.
No disrespect, but he's not like Dennis Hopeless and like not having a job in a year because he can't get past the sidekick.
What have you read about Dennis Hopeless?
Or my bad, let me rephrase. Tim Seeley. You know, like Tim Seeley, who will never be more than a sidekick writer. Right? Tim Seeley's an average writer who writes average characters. He wrote Nightwing, but it was a terrible Nightwing book.
I wouldn't say it was terrible. I collected it for like 9 issues, but
you dropped it because it was terrible.
9 issues said something. I don't want to say it's terrible, but it just lost me along the way. I enjoyed the start.
The art was Marcus Toe.
Was it?
Yeah.
And the whole from the jump.
Mm-hmm.
No,
it wasn't from Jump. Marcus Toe did Volume 2.
Okay. Oh dang! See, that's what I probably would have enjoyed had I stayed on. Marcus Toe, man.
But good friend of ours. But my man Marcus, main man Marcus. But it's really crazy. I'm like, this is what Joshua Williamson needed. He needed another few years to get to know some of these characters, and that's just the fact. If you guys are liking this event, more props to you. I'm so happy you're enjoying it, or I'm not. I'm trying to enjoy it.
I don't want to say it was bad, but it's just a little
amateur.
It's non-cohesive, and it could be a little bit more streamlined, more focused.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I feel like under a more steady pen, it would be more polished, more understandable, because you're trying to introduce multiple different worlds. Like, they all matter. You need each world to feel different, each world to feel unique, and we're not getting that right now.
And maybe it's like they got too much on this. Once again, I think they're putting too much on his plate because he's writing Batman as well. That's one of the.
He's writing Batman, Robin, Deathstroke.
Yeah. Not only you guys trying to have him spearhead your overall event to lead the universe, you're having him write I was gonna say debatably, but it is. Batman's the biggest DC book. You know, like you're having him write your A-list title.
Which one? I say which one? You have 20, but obviously.
While with when Johns was doing it, it's not like people were running out to like, oh, we love Green Lantern, we're always gonna buy Green Lantern. He made Green Lantern readable. He made it what it was. It's not like people are gonna buy Batman regardless of who's writing it. Batman's just, and even if they're gonna buy regardless, there's still a lot of weight on your shoulders as a writer spearheading the biggest character for DC. And Johns never really. Maybe the Flash, but I don't. When he was doing his bigger stuff, he didn't really have to worry about handling this other massive property.
He didn't need Batman to be big. He didn't need Batman to be great. He wrote Earth 1, but like.
Once again, maybe that's not Williamson. Maybe DC put him on there because they don't have many other
anyone else
writers they believe in.
Yeah, he's the only one that stayed.
Right. Right.
He's the only one. It's not like that you can call Gail Simone and say, "Yo, come back. We'll pay you $1." Gail Simone's sitting on Twitter, happy as can be. She did her stunt.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Had their time. Yeah.
Scott Snyder, you
He did his
destroyed
thing.
his baby. It killed
Yeah.
his baby.
Yeah.
You done killed. Keith Giffen ain't coming back because Keith Giffen was doing that Endless Winter event. Keith Giffen ain't coming back. That's all he had in him. He did the Endless Winter thing with Andy Lanning, and it was like and Howard Porter.
I didn't know
it was
he
like
wrote that
right.
book,
It was right before Future State. It was like
and people were getting confused because I'm not gonna lie, the promotional images for that seemed. If they would have made that a bigger thing, I think it could have been a cool.
It would have been so dope. And I'm like, yeah, it's a forgettable event because we're in Future State and nothing else matters. Because I remember I took a break from DC because they were doing Endless Winter. Like, yeah, we're already relaunching in January. I'm like, I'm not buying DC till March, and I did not buy.
Same here, yeah.
I took a good 4-month break from DC at that time because, as an industry, they were not putting out anything that was worthwhile for me to read. It was like, editorially, structurally, everything was off because they were getting ready to fire everyone.
Yeah, restructure. Yeah, you could tell when a company is not, could just kind of, I'll just put this out to appease people until we got something we want to say. And I feel, I don't know, maybe Endless Winter wasn't that, but they definitely weren't trying to push that as a, here's just something to tide you guys over until we get to Future State. It was essentially how they were pushing.
If you want to read it, you can read it, or you can wait for the hardcover when we get around to it.
Right.
Because DC cares about a project when they drop the hardcover like 2 days after the book finishes, because they do that from time to time. They do that a lot,
We've been waiting.
They do that a lot. They did that with They did that with Superman and the Authority like a minute. Like it was like.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, like the hardcover came out a week after it ended. I was like, that's so funny. But that book was already scripted and drawn. That was a 5G project. It was done like a year ago.
Oh, so they just been sitting. Okay, yeah.
Because it was already done by the time Morrison announced his retirement, or their retirement. Sorry about that. Their retirement. So, because they said like, oh yeah, we're retiring, and then this happened. It was like, okay, like Grant didn't really do much with it. So.
Yeah, didn't Grant say like, I don't think he said it, or they said. Sorry, I don't think they said it, but Grant said something along the terms of that
they're not ready for these.
They only came back to do Superman and Authority because
it was unfinished.
What was it?
It was unfinished.
Okay.
Yeah, they needed like a few more pages, but it was like, okay, like everything's about done. Like that was a 5G project, man.
Yeah.
And I don't think Grant cared for all that politics anymore. Like,
no,
because they lived through it back when, after Identity Crisis, when they cleaned up shop. Before Identity Crisis, when they cleaned up shop, Grant's kind of lived through that firsthand. They started more as a Vertigo writer, getting into the big two, and then, all the editorial stuff just drove them out.
And Grant, before Grant did Batman back in the early 2000s. Grant did worked on Justice Stele in the 90s, and there were a few events Grant tried to do, and I do feel like they had tried to restructure like time. So Crisis Infinite Earths happened, and that was 1985, and in 2005, so it was what 20 years between the two, and Infinite Crisis happened 2005. And in the 90s, Grant had tried making sense of the whole multiple Earths, different timelines thing. It was called hyper time or something. And it just never stuck. I don't know. Maybe it is DC. There is a problem. But Grant's been burnt a few times by DC, and Grant came back. They, like you said, they've seen politics play out. They're kind of done with it, like they don't want to have to be dictated. To have a story be told, yeah, we're going to do that story, and then have something changed at the last minute. That's why Grant left Marvel. Yeah. I digress. I'm getting way off topic. My bad.
Oh, no worries, man. And for anyone else who has opinions on this topic, please leave your comments or your thoughts in the comments below. We really want to hear. This is a great concept that we're talking about, and it really comes down to this. Joshua Williamson's not a veteran writer, and you need a veteran writer right now. The only one who can do that is Geoff Johns. That's enough said.
Like exactly like you said, especially with the whole metaverse, and there's so many different incarnations and personality types for these characters. You need someone who knows these characters like the back of their hands to make this, to implement all this so seamlessly.
So, would you go back and pull more or pull Johns out of the comic industry to put him with their movies, where your movies have had not the most success? You got to relaunch your movie industry again. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to.
There's rumors they're doing it now.
You're gonna have to. So nothing Geoff Johns did the past 4 years matters in the movie industry. Sorry, but you're hitting the restart button. This is your new 52 for your movies.
Yeah, you're right.
Looking back in hindsight, Geoff Johns needed to stay in DC.
Absolutely.
He needed to stay doing comic books.
And it's almost like they shot themselves in the foot, because Warner Brothers pulled, or I'm sure Warner Brothers told DC pulled Johns out of the comics industry, like, yo, we need you down at the movie section. And it's like, because it was doomed to fail anyways. And they placed the blame on him when it wasn't his fault. And because of that, he lost his position as one of their key writers. So essentially, DC is the reason that Johns is not with them anymore. It's like, and they blame, it's like they forced him out, but they forced themselves to force him out. Like,
go read Geiger. Go read Geiger. Geoff Johns, Gary Frank, goodness. Go read Geiger. I'm
not gonna lie. I love Geoff Johns, but I had only, to my knowledge, I was like, for a long time, I was like, has Johns ever really done anything indie? Like, I know he did a few things at Marvel. He surprisingly did Avengers.
Yeah, he did 3 issues of Avengers. It was fun.
The Thing,
cool.
yeah.
Dope.
That right before Bendis. But I had known him for DC. I had not really known if he'd done any indie work, so I was a little on the fence. Like, man, hopefully he can pull his weight. And I part of me was like, man, maybe his thing is he only really knows the DC universe. But he proved me wrong. Geiger was an amazing, like, it shows he knows how to build characters and make you care about characters that you know nothing about. Like, that's where he excels.
Geiger's going to be the best sci-fi horror movie you've ever seen when it comes out when it gets optioned. It's because it's a perfect mix. It's Mad Max as a superhero, essentially, mixed with like Fallout, the video game, in this dope, cohesive world. Like, I didn't think he could do it, and he proved me wrong. Like, oh my gosh.
Now that you said that, like, that just showcases why we need Geoff Johns back at DC, is because he knows, like, that's what he's good at. That's his niche. He will take a character that you know nothing about, you care nothing about, and almost turn them into one of your favorite characters.
Oh,
he did that for Booster Gold for me.
Oh my, I couldn't have said that any better myself.
Booster Gold run, so worth it. Dog, love it.
100%. That is a great cabin point, my friend. That is a great cabin point. We'll leave it at that. Make sure you guys check out everything the PCP Army Bad Batch has to offer you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. If you're interested in checking out our other content, we got weekly wrap-up every single Monday. That's our live show, 8 p.m. Eastern time, where we review our weekly comic books, and then we get ready for New Comic Day that Wednesday. It's a great show. We have Crisis on Infinite Rants every Wednesday, 1 o'clock. We have archives every Friday, 1 o'clock as well. That's our deep dive into like a collected edition, such as this is right here. So I'm just going to show it. We already did it, but we got House of M coming out, and then I believe we got Naomi in the pipeline. So we're looking forward to that. And then Creators Corner, we're coming back hard with Roy Thomas. We just had Jim McKay on 2 weeks ago. We got Roy Thomas coming on the show real soon, and I couldn't be more excited for that, because that's a dream. That's a dream.
Yeah, legendary, bro. Loading him in the chamber.
It's gonna be welcome to the kingdom.
My questions. Yeah.
But anyway, guys, thank you so much for your support. We really do appreciate it. We would appreciate it even more if you guys commented and talked about this with us, because
we really would like to hear you guys' thoughts on, maybe we're saying something you disagree with. Let us know.
Oh yeah, if you think we're idiots, tell us. Yes. Be honest. If we're idiots.
Mostly him. But
I'm an idiot.
Some criticism. I'll accept some criticism, guys.
No one can rock a flannel like you, Steph.
I thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, you guys. Take care. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. Go get yourself a new comic book station. Let's get this roll call on the way. Yeah!